Welcome everyone, this is Honest Restart, and this time we'll be talking about my final predictions for Nintendo's E3 2021 Direct. It is coming. It was officially announced about a week ago, and it is happening. We are going to be seeing a 40-minute Direct that will be focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software that will be mostly releasing in 2021, and then it'll be followed by 3 hours of Nintendo Treehouse gameplay. So there's a couple things here I want to sort of touch on before we jump into the actual specific predictions. So firstly, they felt the need to specify that this will be focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software, which I find to be quite peculiar. Why? Well, one, because they're not going to talk about mobile games during a general Nintendo Direct. That's not what Nintendo does, so this is not alluding to some sort of mobile game around the corner. Even though there could be one, it just wouldn't be related to this, and they wouldn't mention that in a tweet like this. And it also can't be related to the 3DS because the 3DS has been dead for quite some time already. We will not be getting any new announcements for the 3DS. So the fact that they felt the need to specify exclusively on Nintendo Switch software when we've had other Directs in the past where they do not make that specification, it's implying something. What is it implying? Well, it's implying that they are at least aware of all the hype and speculation and discussion about the Switch revision that has been long rumored and reported. Do I think it's real? Absolutely, 100% positively. Well, not 100%, you can never be 100% with anything, but with great confidence. 90+%, let's say that. I do think there's a really good chance it will be announced before E3, as reported by both Eurogamer and Bloomberg, reputable news sites. So I think there's a good chance it could happen, but of course, because it hasn't been officially announced by Nintendo, it can be pushed or pulled, totally possible. We may not see the announcement of the revision until after E3. It could be the case. And it's also possible for those of you watching that you may already know about this revision because a trailer may have already came out for it. So if it's happened, great, that's wonderful, but we're not talking about this revision in this video. It may impact things in terms of like, perhaps there may be a logo and some of the trailers saying this is like the Switch Plus enhanced version or what have you. That could be the case, but ultimately the Switch version itself won't be impacting too much in terms of what we see during the Direct. Just games may look a lot nicer if it is announced. That's pretty much it. Now the other thing I want to touch on here is where they say mostly releasing in 2021. Normally they don't word things exactly in this way. They do say focused on software coming in 2021 or whatever year it is that the Direct is in. But when they say mostly releasing in 2021, that implies that most of the products that will be in the Direct are going to be for 2021. So perhaps things like Splatoon 3 or Legends Arceus, games slated for 2022, won't be there. I think they will be. But the point is, they may not sort of showcase that. Or, for example, maybe Breath of the Wild 2 is in the Direct, and it's not coming out in 2021. Those are some of the things that people have sort of considered here, but I'll be touching more on that a little bit later. Just sort of keep in mind of that little point they're making, mostly releasing in 2021. I will be touching on dates with the different games I am predicting for this Direct. Now, before we jump into things, let me very quickly talk about my social media. You may see a few different things here on screen. You can check that all out. It is linked in the description below. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, you can subscribe. Now I know you guys are here for the Nintendo stuff for the most part, and that will be the majority of the video, but I still think there will be third-party stuff in this Direct. Some people may have confused that line where they say exclusively on Nintendo Switch software. They don't mean first-party exclusives, they just mean games that are coming to Nintendo Switch. So they will talk about third-party stuff in this Direct, so there's a few things I want to talk about, which, by the way, mostly will be third-party exclusives, but they are sort of partnerships that Nintendo has with other companies. So I expect mention for both Monster Hunter Rise and Stories in the Direct. Stories is coming out this summer. They definitely want to feature and talk about that. It's a big deal. It's being pushed. Absolutely. Now, as for Monster Hunter Rise, we are getting continual updates month by month for this game. It's a huge game that's selling incredibly well. I love it, and I would like to see more updates on this, and I do expect there to be more updates on this. Capcom has told us there will be more updates on this. And during this Direct, I expect something kind of nifty to perhaps be announced. Maybe they won't be announcing the paid DLC quite yet, that may be coming months down the road, perhaps later into the year, but maybe they announce some sort of cool sort of crossover collaboration. I've speculated a few things before alongside Dumo in the podcast, maybe we see, for example, Ridley added as an actual monster in Monster Hunter Rise. That would be amazing. And if we don't get like a Metroid monster, what if we get like a Zelda monster, like a Lionel, for example? That would be super, super cool. And the premise of us seeing sort of like crossover monsters added from Nintendo franchises in the Rise isn't really that crazy, because we've seen things like that done before from other companies back from Monster Hunter World. So maybe it could happen. I'm not saying I specifically predict that we will see Ridley or a Lionel added into Monster Hunter Rise, but I definitely think we'll be getting some update on that game. Now, another game I expect to see is a game we've actually predicted to be real and to be coming out on Switch this year, and that's the new remaster remake for Sonic Colors. It's coming out on Nintendo Switch this September. I'm expecting a little bit more footage for that game, perhaps a small little trailer, maybe in the sizzle reel, something like that. It will show up to some capacity in the Nintendo Direct. And on the note of a small, quick little trailer, I also expect another trailer for No More Heroes 3. That game is slated for August. I think we'll get another update on that game, and it's probably going to look pretty darn cool. At first, when we were seeing trailers for the game, I felt like the resolution was kind of low. It didn't seem like it was very well polished, but with the most recent trailer, things slowly bumped up quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see another trailer that looks even better. Now, so far, I've pretty much only been talking about things that are already known. Well, here's something that isn't known. I am expecting, and this may not happen during this Direct, but I think there's a good chance that we could be seeing a sequel to Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I think Ubisoft and Nintendo had a really good run with the initial game. They were all really excited about it. It went really well. Interviews suggested they would like to do more with the series. There was a whole Donkey Kong expansion. I have reason to believe that there will be a sequel to this game, or something along those lines, some sort of RPG involving Mario from Ubisoft. And I think there's a really good chance it's a sequel to Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and I think there's another really good chance that it will be in this Direct. Am I 100% on it? No, I'm not 100% on it. Maybe 50-50. In terms of showing about this Direct, I think it will eventually sort of be announced, but there's definitely a good chance we see this thing at the Direct. Moving past that, I also expect us to finally get a bit of a blow up for Shin Megami Tensei 5. We may get more information on this game throughout E3 before the actual Direct itself. It could be one of those games that has like a Switch enhanced version for the revision that may or may not be announced by the time E3 happens, so that's a possibility. But either way, at the very least, we will be getting an update trailer on this game, and they will be confirming officially a 2021 release. Recently we saw a little bit of a leak that's sort of confirming it coming out in November, so we'll see if that holds true. I kind of expect it to hold true. So yes, Shin Megami Tensei 5, one of the big games that was announced back at the January 2017 presentation, will get a confirmed release date during this Nintendo Direct, I think. But on the note of games announced in 2017, I do finally think we will get some gameplay footage for Bayonetta 3. I think this is the time it will be showing off. Now, I'm not convinced the game will come out this year, but definitely I think we'll be getting an update during this Direct for Bayonetta 3. I think it's going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be really hype. I think there's a small chance it comes out this December. It feels like the kind of game that could fit during that time period, but we shall see what happens. Regardless, my prediction is that we see gameplay for Bayonetta 3 during its Nintendo Direct. Its release date, that's a little bit hard to predict right now, but still, we are going to see this game during its Direct. I feel confident in saying that. I hope I'm not wrong. But now let's jump into the Nintendo franchise games. So what are we going to see specifically from Nintendo this time around? Absolutely, at least one Smash character will be announced in the Direct. There is a chance for two, but this time around I'm predicting just one, and that's simply because of all the other things I expect to see during this Direct, and because I also feel like they're going to want to space things out. I actually recently put out a whole other video talking specifically about Smash at E3, so if you want to check that out, for sure go ahead. It'll be in the end screen and such, so you can check that out. But yes, Smash, it will probably open up the show. There will be a cool character reveal. Who's it gonna be? There's quite a few options. I think most people are gonna recognize the character, but in terms of my actual predictions for what that character may be, check out my Smash E3 video, but who knows, maybe Crash or Master Chief, just putting some names out there. After Smash is discussed, I feel like fairly early on into the Direct, they're gonna talk about Metroid. It's happening. We are gonna get Metroid stuff. I feel very confident about this. It's above 90%. I feel very, very confident we'll see something Metroid. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, it's a prediction, but I do very much believe it is real. I do very much believe there's a Metroid game coming out this year, and because of that, I definitely think it's probably being announced in this Nintendo Direct. Now, it's not Metroid Prime 4, okay? I know some people want to see that, I want to see that. Metroid Prime 4 I do not expect to be coming out this year, so we'll definitely not be getting a blowout. What I am expecting is a 2D Metroid game, or a 2.5D Metroid game. I think it's going to look awesome, it's going to be in HD, it's going to have great visuals, it's going to be fast paced, it's going to be a Metroidvania, it may have some cool sort of like quasi-perspective mode, maybe like occasionally a first-person perspective mode, potentially, but for sure, most of the time it's going to be the Metroidvania side-scrolling style of gameplay, and it's going to be awesome. Now, going beyond that, there could be a few other Metroid things announced. I don't think it'll be Prime Trilogy though, I think that's a next year thing, maybe an early next year thing, but not during this Direct. What I do think could maybe happen is an announcement for Samus in Fortnite. Now, hold on, I know, we recently got a report or a rumor coming from a credible source or what have you that the Samus in Fortnite thing fell through. That could totally be the case. If you're not unfamiliar, we did get legal documentation that showed that there was a plan to add Samus into Fortnite. Nintendo never confirmed this, but that seems very, very likely. And recently we got a rumor saying that Samus won't actually be added for the Alien season that we're getting in Fortnite really soon, which, you know, would be unfortunate, could be the case, but I'm gonna still say that there's a chance it still happens. I'll place 50-50 on it, it's at least worth mentioning here. Going beyond that, I feel like when they do announce this 2D Metroid game, there is a good chance that they will at least say something about Metroid Prime 4. There's a small chance, I'm not predicting this, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, that we do get at least a teaser trailer for Metroid Prime 4. While there could be more, I feel like just because of the timing of things and other things that are coming out around now and the focus of this Direct, I just don't think they're going to talk about Metroid Prime 4. Not that much. We're not going to get a gameplay reveal quite yet. If they do it, great, but I'm just expecting it to happen a little bit later, maybe at the Game Awards later this year. But I do feel like they might at least say, hey, development is going smoothly, we know you want updates, you're going to have to wait a little bit later, similar to how they handle Zelda, and then they will give us the trailer for 2D Metroid. Going beyond that, I am actually thinking we will see another update on Splatoon 3. Now, if we don't see anything for Splatoon 3, it's definitely coming out summer at the very earliest for next year, but I'm thinking we're actually maybe going to see it sooner, as early as March of 2022. I know that may seem a little bit crazy, but considering how early they announced Splatoon 3, I'm thinking the game is actually further along than some people are thinking. And if that's the case, I am expecting that we will be seeing Splatoon 3 in the Nintendo Direct. It will be showcased for sure during the Treehouse. There will be a nice big gameplay segment for Splatoon 3 during the Treehouse. And naturally, if we're getting a gameplay demonstration of Splatoon 3, there will have also been some sort of update trailer on the game during the Direct, so I am thinking we will be seeing that. On the note of another 2022 game, which I probably should have mentioned earlier, I do think we also could maybe see another update on Triangle Strategy. Maybe they announce another demo we could play to sort of test the game out a little bit more. That's a possibility. They may save that for later on to the year, maybe a September Direct, but there is a good chance that it's also mentioned to some extent as well. Continuing on with 2022 games that we know about, I think we're going to see Pokemon. That's pretty much a given. We don't know about the Pokemon Presents situation, they haven't announced it yet, maybe we still do get that Pokemon Presents. But either way, whether we get a Pokemon Presents or not, we will at least see some mention of the Pokemon games during the Direct, both of them, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. We'll get a little small trailer for that during the Direct, and we'll also get a little small trailer with Legends Arceus as well. It may just be more of a recap for what we see during the Pokemon Presents, but they will at least be mentioned. And if for whatever reason we don't get the Pokemon Presents, we will get trailers for these Pokemon games during the Direct. Going beyond already announced Nintendo games, I do think we're gonna see a new Kirby announcement, at least one. I think there are multiple Kirby projects that are looming, they are on the horizon. There supposedly is going to be an ambitious new Kirby game. I think that is very likely. I don't know if we see it at E3 this year, potentially, but at the very, very least, I'm expecting like a smaller Kirby eShop announcement. Maybe it works with Nintendo Online. I'm expecting something like that to be announced during this Nintendo Direct, and if we also get the announcement of the big new major Kirby game, potentially in 3D, that would be exciting, but I'm not going to predict that for this Direct, but it is certainly one of the many possibilities. A game that has been rumored for a while has been a sequel to Super Mario Party. Makes sense, we usually get multiple Mario Party games per generation. It's been a couple of years, so maybe we see another Mario Party announced. However, we did recently get that big online update for Super Mario Party, so it does sort of leave your head scratching in terms of what Nintendo's actually doing with that. The speculation has been that they were doing a bit of a stress test with Super Mario Party and their newly revised online servers, so maybe this has all been in preparation for the next big Mario Party game. That'll be lovely. I would be very excited about it based off what I've heard and we've talked about on the channel before. I think there's a good chance that the next Mario Party is on the horizon and it's gonna be a good one. I might even prefer this one over the previous one. It may be a bit more fast-paced. That's what I'm sort of thinking. So yeah, there's a pretty good chance we see the next Mario Party announced during this Nintendo Direct. Continuing this pattern of discussing rumored games, I think it's now time to mention Donkey Kong. I think it's more likely than not that if this Donkey Kong is real, which I absolutely believe it's real, will be announced during this Direct. It's possible Nintendo saves it for a later date. They have so many games on the horizon, they may not think it's really time to bring out Donkey Kong quite yet, but given that it's the 40th anniversary and such, I feel like the timing might work out pretty well, and we do see this Donkey Kong game shown off during the E3 Direct. Now, what is this Donkey Kong game? Is it 2D? Is it 3D? I'm going to predict that it's going to be a bit of a blend. What does that entail exactly? I don't know. Regardless, whether it's 2D style Donkey Kong or 3D style Donkey Kong, because it's coming from Nintendo EPD, potentially the Mario Odyssey team themselves, I know pretty much for a fact that it's going to be an amazing game and I'm going to absolutely love it, regardless of the perspective. But I think there's a good chance we see it during this Direct, and it's going to be exciting. Now, one of the reasons I have some hesitance about saying that the Donkey Kong game will be coming out this year and that it can be shown off in the Direct is because there are other things, like I said earlier. One of those things, I think, is a Fire Emblem remake. We normally see 2 to 3 Fire Emblem games per generation on Nintendo handhelds. Fire Emblem's now being focused on the Switch because that is the replacement for the handhelds. So there's probably another Fire Emblem game in the works. Three Houses came out in 2019, 2 years later to see a remake. Not that far-fetched. It may not come out this year though, it may come out more into 2022. Totally a possibility. Regardless, there's a really good chance that we see another announcement for a Fire Emblem game. And even if it's not announced in this Direct, I do still think it's around the corner. By 2022 at the latest, I do think we are seeing another Fire Emblem game. And it could potentially still come out this year, so yes, I think there's like a 60-40 chance we see Fire Emblem announced during this Nintendo Direct. So with both Donkey Kong and Fire Emblem, I'm like 60-40 on them. I think they are more likely to be shown off than not. But there's a few other games that I know that are in development that are more of like a 50-50 to me. And this is public information. One of them is the team that made both Mario Kart and ARMS. They haven't come out with a game since 2017. What have they been working on? We are now in 2021. It's been 4 years. Timing wise, it makes sense for them to be nearly done with their next big game. There is a really good chance it's shown off at E3. But given everything we've already talked about and what we'll be talking about towards the end of this video, they may not need it quite yet. So it may not be shown off quite yet, which is why I'm 50-50 on it. But regardless, whatever this game is, I think it's going to be a game with multiplayer and an online focus, and it's going to have a strong sort of level of sales potential here. And it may be Mario Kart 9. That could be the case. Maybe it's another revived Nintendo franchise. Maybe it's a new IP. Hard to say. Regardless, I do think there's a 50-50 chance we see what this team has been working on during this Nintendo Direct. Another project that I think is 50-50 that we see during the Direct is the next big game from Monolith Soft, the developers behind Xenoblade and also the developers that help out with pretty much all of the big Nintendo games, including Zelda. So Monolith Soft has been developing this new IP according to hiring since 2017, another game similar to the Mario Kart ARMS team game that could be announced at any point, potentially this year. So for sure, I think there's a really good chance we see it at E3, but again, because there's so many possibilities here, I think they also could save it for next year as a big hype reveal then, and it probably would come out next year. So 50-50 on this one. It could be like a big sort of fantasy sci-fi RPG with MMO elements. Maybe they sort of evolve the idea of Xenoblade X, but now with the better online servers, they take it to a whole other level where there's some decent sort of like online multiplayer co-op going on here. That's what I'm sort of thinking from this game. Now, some of you may be wondering about a potential Xenoblade 3. I also think that's in development. I'm not sure it's going to be shown off first though, because this other game has been in development since 2017, it seems. So I would say maybe expect a new IP first. But if Xenoblade 3 were to be announced during this Nintendo Direct, that wouldn't throw me for an entire loop. It would be exciting. I'm not expecting it, but it's also technically a possibility, and not like a small one, like a decent one. I'll say like 25-30% chance that we see Xenoblade 3 announced during this Direct. And on the note of projects that I'm not super confident we see, but could be announced during this Direct, I think the next big project from Next Level Games could be shown off during this presentation. They were so successful with Luigi's Mansion 3, Nintendo bought them out entirely. They could be working on the next big Luigi's Mansion, maybe they're working on Mario Strikers, maybe it's something else altogether. All good possibilities. I feel like it's more likely we see an announcement from them perhaps later this year or sometime next year, but they could conceivably show it off now. Luigi's Mansion 3 came out in 2019. They might already be far enough along that they could show us some sort of trailer, but I'm not expecting it. So by this point, I'm sure most of you know what I'm going to talk about for the final point of this video. Zelda. It's a big one. It's the big focus for the E3 showcase, I think. I'm hoping. Nintendo made zero mention of Zelda, which I find to be quite peculiar. We've seen zero mention of the Zelda 35th anniversary in any sort of official capacity. Nintendo is definitely sort of not saying what's going on with Zelda. They've been very hush-hush, save for all the different Skyward Sword HD announcements and tweets lately. Are we getting Zelda news at the Direct? 100% absolutely. At the very least, we're going to get an update trailer on Age of Calamity DLC. Why? Because the Age of Calamity DLC Pack 1 is supposed to come out in June. So I feel like timing-wise, just shove that into the Direct. They could maybe have that as its own sort of Twitter announcement, but if you're going to have a big Direct, just squeeze it in there. Why not? I also think it's likely that we get an update on Skyward Sword, so that makes total sense. Oh, by the way, I completely missed this. Mario Golf is coming out in June, so that probably will be mentioned at some point during the Direct to some capacity as well. But going back to Zelda, Skyward Sword and Age of Calamity, I expect to see small, quick mentions. But what about beyond that? What about other Zelda anniversary things? Could we see the Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD announcement during this Direct? Maybe. Could we see the rumored Ocarina of Time HD during the Direct? Or maybe Majora's Mask 3D HD or what have you? Also, yes, also a possibility. Maybe we see like a Zelda 99. These are all possibilities, and we may see them. But it's also possible that Nintendo will not focus entirely on the Zelda 35th anniversary during this Direct. They may save that for another time later into the year. But what they will do is perhaps confirm that they have a plan for the 35th anniversary, and they'll give us a fully featured showcase trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. And in there, they'll say there'll be more updates on Breath of the Wild 2 during the Treehouse and a Zelda anniversary event later in the year. And that's perhaps the biggest thing right there. Breath of the Wild 2. This game has been in development since late 2017, according to interviews from Eiji Aonuma, the Zelda director. We got the initial teaser trailer back at E3 2019. We are now 2 years past that point. Surely they have something to show off. If you guys have been following me, you know I'm actually still predicting the game to come out this year. Perhaps late October, perhaps December. A lot of other people, most people think it's coming out in March. I had an entire 26-minute video talking about all of this up and down speculation about the release date, so that also will be in the end screen if you want to check that one out. But regardless, we are going to get news on Breath of the Wild 2. We're going to see actual gameplay. We're going to get a better understanding of what is going on with this game. And it's going to be epic. The game is going to be amazing. I expect that there's going to be underwater exploration, underground exploration, more open air exploration, actually into the skies to some extent. I feel like that Zelda Loft Wing amiibo will probably have some functionality with this sequel. We'll probably maybe see that confirmed to some extent during the Direct or during the Treehouse. And even if it's not confirmed then, it may be confirmed a little bit later, but I think there's a really good chance it is confirmed on June 15th in some way. I think that green hand is definitely going to be playing a role with the different items and things you could do. It probably will be a replacement for the rune abilities you had in Breath of the Wild 1. I think we'll get more evidence to what this mummified character is in the trailer. Spoiler, it's definitely Ganondorf, but we'll get more information on that character, and maybe we'll get a good idea of what's going on with Zelda. Is Zelda going to be kidnapped? Is she going to be playable? Is she going to be like a companion character? We will find out on June 15th. So, even if we don't get Breath of the Wild 2 this year, at the very least, we can look forward to Breath of the Wild 2 news on June 15th. I feel very confident in saying that. It's above 90% in my opinion, and that alone is very exciting. But with that, that pretty much sums up most of my predictions and speculation going into the E3 2021 Nintendo Direct. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're going to be getting all of these things I talked about during the Direct? Do you have different ideas? Let me know in the comments below. But anyways, everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.